Everybody, we're going to give a couple of minutes here for any people that are getting in just a little bit late. We're too sharp right now, so we'll give it a couple of minutes. All right, 2 minutes up. We ready to go? Okay.
Ready.
There you go. First of all, thank you all for attending and welcome to our Optimizing Liquid Cooling Economics webinar, Sensor-Driven Solutions for Data Center Cooling Equipment. Today, we hope to demonstrate that sensor selection, although sometimes overlooked, does in fact impact total cost of ownership. I'm Dennis. I'm a product marketing specialist for GemCetra. I've been part of the organization since 2016. Tim?
Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Kelly. I'm part of the GemCetra Industrial Solutions business unit. I have the pleasure of overseeing our inside sales and technical support team members. And I've been part of the family a little bit longer than Dennis, a little over 30 years. And so if you have a 1995 catalog, you may find a little resemblance to the young man on the phone inside, pictured inside. Before we start, just want to set a few ground rules. If you have any questions, there will be during the presentation, there will be a question tab present, so you can drop your questions in there and we will address those once we're done with the main part of the broadcast. Without further ado, Dennis, would you like to get us started?
Absolutely, absolutely. Thanks, Tim. Okay, GemCetra, 2 names, 1 company, 2 full product portfolios. Our GEMS manufacturing facility for our GEMS branded products been in operation for almost 70 years. And our product lines consist of point level and continuous level sensors, pressure transducers and switches, continuous flow sensors and switches, and 2- and 3-way solenoid valves. Our second facility for Cetra products has been in business for 58 years, also with a robust portfolio of industrial pressure, differential pressure, both air and wet to wet, temperature and humidity sensors, either wired or wireless, particle counters, power meters, room pressure monitors, and pressure sensor calibrators. And then also we have West branded process controllers with its own manufacturing facility. GemCetra provides global support. Our technical sales teams are in North America, EMEA, China, and India, with channel partners around the world. And our engineering expertise resides on 3 continents. Our manufacturing capabilities can meet local and regional needs. Okay, the shift towards liquid cooling. So why liquid cooling? We all know about the rise of AI, right? We've all heard about the advent of AI and how fast it's growing. We may have also heard about AI factories and machine learning. We also have other HPC processes, Bitcoin mining, quantum computing. What these all have in common is they all require a lot of power. And more power means more heat. Once upon a time, rack densities were far more manageable, generating 10 to 20 kilowatts of power or less. And for these applications, traditional air-cooled methods were okay. As those densities rose, and they continue to rise, cooling methods need to change. You see the chart on the upper right corner, where you see with the lowest densities, perimeter cooling is adequate. You know, in your office when you have your server room, there's just a standard air conditioner to cool that space. Once that isn't sufficient, then special air cooling equipment like CRAC or CRAY and hot or cold aisle containment strategies are more suited. As things get hotter, technologies like rear door heat exchangers or other hybrid cooling methods come into play. And then as we reach densities in excess of 150 to 200 kilowatts and beyond, that's where liquid cooling becomes a necessity. Other factors driving liquid cooling are sustainability and uptime, and liquid cooling is far more efficient than air cooling methods, helping reach sustainability goals. Liquid cooling also helps to lower PUE, or power use effectiveness. That's a metric followed by data center professionals, and the goal is to get that number as close to 1 as possible. And liquid cooling has provided far lower PUE than traditional air. We also want to note that the rate at which AI and high-performance computing is growing is resulting in unprecedented growth rate in this market. You see the compound annual growth rate listed there of 26.5%. Depending on the publication, we've seen anything from 18 to 30%. But regardless of that exact number, liquid cooling's future dominance is evident here. Now let's talk to sensor functions, right? Before addressing our GEMS liquid cooling sensors, let me first mention again that our GEMS and Setra product lines offer a comprehensive suite of solutions across the entire data center, from environmental to air cooling and HVAC, and of course, as you see, liquid cooling. The GEMS product portfolio specifically consists of pressure, flow, and level solutions. For pressure, we commonly see dual pressure sensors at the supply and return lines to monitor differential pressure in coolant distribution units. Our flow sensors for continuous monitoring and switches for low flow indication, and level sensors can be found for high or low level indication in coolant reservoirs and at top of rack manifolds to ensure all servers are receiving coolant. Now it says locations and CDUs here, but our GEMS products are found throughout the facility water systems, or FWS, and the technology cooling systems, or TCS, in the data center facility. These are also called the primary and secondary loops. Well, for right now, though, we focus on the CDU. And let's take a look at some of the products commonly used. I'll start on the upper left. We have our ELS 1100 series. It's our electro-optic level sensor. It has a small footprint for tight spaces. That's one of its main benefits, like in manifolds where space is at a premium. Just below that, we have the FT110 turbine flow sensor. It's for continuous low flow rate monitoring. Below that, you have the rotor flow series. The rotor flow covers mid-range flow rates for rack-based flow monitoring. It has visual flow indication, as you see the rotor through the cover there, and it offers either a continuous analog output or a switch version with an adjustable set point. Below that, we have our FS925 switch with a fixed set point range for low flow indication. Then we leap up to the upper right side for our ULS 200 point level sensor. Now it has an oil and hydrocarbon version that we've designed, but the aqueous version that we designed is for glycol-based coolants like PG25, as well as chilled water, specifically designed for the coolants that you'll find in the data center. Below that, the two pressure transducers you see are our 3100 and 3510 pressure transducers. They have many electrical and process connection options. The 3100 series is for higher pressure, the 3510 for mid-range pressure sensing. And then at the bottom right, you see our LS10 leak detector. It's got a very low profile. It's designed to be affixed at the bottom of a cabinet or to the floor for leak detection. Now we'll have Tim take you through the details of these sensors and how they work.
Thank you, Dennis. So we will be covering all three groupings: pressure, flow, and level. First, let's take a look at the pressure sensors used. So as Dennis mentioned, we have typically see two models offered, one for higher pressures and one for low to mid-range pressure. And on the left-hand side, the 3100, you would find that in your higher pressure CDUs and pump skids. 3500 on that lower range of pressure to pump CDUs, as well as in other liquid cooling applications within the application itself. So both are offered in stainless steel with the wetted materials. They have very good performance in terms of total error band. They each have output selections of regulated voltages, 0 to 5, 0 to 10 volt DC, a 4 to 20 milliamp analog signal, or ratiometric, and those are selectable prior to purchase. They both can have ingress protection ratings up to IP67, one depending upon the connector chosen. And again, the 3100 better suited for those high pressure, harsher applications, with the 3510 on the low to medium pressure. And these are really to ensure stability, durability, and keep the responses fast in those critical pumping applications. Next slide. So a little bit about how they work, and I'll keep it relatively brief. So the two models, one using strain gauge, the other piezo resistive elements, those are attached to a stainless steel diaphragm, and as pressure is applied, that diaphragm flexes and changes the electrical signal internal. That electrical signal is then interpreted by some onboard electronics to amplify that and put it into the output that we spoke of. Again, voltages, the current rating, or a ratiometric output. So as pressure changes, that output changes, but it is a continuous reading at all times. Next slide. So moving into the flow side, it really breaks down into two major categories: continuous flow indication, and then your on-off flow or no flow indication. And on the two left and center, we're utilizing the continuous side. The rotor flow on the far left, as Dennis mentioned, this is actually a product that could be visual only, although you're probably not opening the cabinet to look to see if flow is going. A pulse DC output, an analog output, and then actually conditioned to have a switch output if needed. These are for the higher set points and those larger racks, and going up to the 130 kW rack. It utilizes a paddle wheel with magnetic vanes, and we'll talk about those on the rotor on the next slide. It's offered in brass, stainless steel in the metal side, and polypropylene in the plastics, and durable for larger line sizes than, say, the next one. And for smaller line sizes and lower flow rates, we would be looking at a turbine, very similar in how it does the signal, but a much smaller package and lower flow rates. So both of in this case, it would be offering a pulse DC output, and you'll see a little bit on the next page, a little bit more on that. It is available in a nylon body. It's precise for those low to mid-range flow settings or flow ranges you're looking for, highly repeatable, and ideal for those data center coolant loops. Moving to the last piece of the puzzle, this is really a safety device, a flow or no flow. So the way it'll indicate is if you're at a certain flow rate or above for that setting, the switch is actuated. When it drops below, that switch will deactuate and telling you that you've lost flow and you may want to be doing something about it. So this is in brass or stainless steel. With the being reed switch based, it's highly durable, highly repeatable, and again, for those critical low flow detection. So let's talk about how they work a little bit. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the rotor flow and turbine products, the operating principles are identical. It's the packaging and how the turbine or rotor is situated in the body. So on the left-hand side, we see the rotor flow, and down the bottom, you'll see the magnetized rotor. So each one of those vanes being magnetized, and as it spins on the sensor itself has a Hall effect sensor. So as each magnet passes, that Hall effect sensor identifies that, oh, magnet there, not there, not there, there, not there, and is able to turn that into a proportional DC, a continuous pulse DC output. Likewise, on the right-hand side, the turbine. So instead of a rotor spinning like a grist mill or a windmill, you're having a turbine spin right inside of the line, but it's also magnetic and it's also being picked up by a Hall effect sensor. So as the flow rate, you look on the bottom, as the flow rate increases, the frequency of the output rises and it's able to produce a higher frequency of that voltage from full voltage to 0 to 12, 0 to 12. It keeps oscillating between those in the square wave form there. So at lower flow, it's a lower frequency output. higher flow, you're getting more pulses and it's a higher frequency output. Next slide. So much easier to interpret on a reed switch device. We have the makeup is a reed switch, so it's a single pole double throw contact. There's a piston with a magnet embedded and a spring. And as liquid flow comes through, pushes on that piston, the spring tension and the piston diameter determines where the piston will be at certain flow rates and puts the magnet in the position to actuate the switch. Changes it from its no flow switch condition to flow condition. And where this is really important is, again, as I mentioned before, if you're at or above that set point and your critical flow rate for your application, the sensor is actuated and you're able to run. But if you want protection, is let's say the coolant loop is gone, it's off, you don't want to run the equipment at the time. When that flow is detected, when it drops below the set point, the switch returns to its normal state and you're able to say, I got a problem, there's no flow. Next, we're going to move into the level products. So we have on the left and center two non-moving part solid state products, and on the far right a actual moving part, but it doesn't really move that much. So moving down through the ULS 200, this is a capacitive style sensor. It is ideal, as Dennis mentioned, for the aqueous coolant used in the CDUs. It has a high pressure rating and a very high temperature rating. The ingress protection is very solid. It utilizes an open collector style, so it's syncing or sourcing based on the selection that you make, a wide range of mounting options. It's very rugged. It'll have a high compatibility with various liquids, and we actually have the ability to program time delays, unlike some of the older products where now with the electronics today, we're able to build that right in. So if there's any sloshing or changing, it could actually dampen that out with a time delay. Moving to the center is the ELS 1100. Again, a no moving part product, but in not using capacitance, it's using light to determine if the liquid's there or not. Ideal for distribution lines and manifolds, coolants that are used throughout your applications. Again, ideally suited for that. But what's really nice is it's compact and fits in that profile, has a high pressure rating and temperature rating, has that IP ratings that you're probably looking for to protect the sensor, and a few mounting selections as well, so you can adapt that to your application. On the far right is our switch base. So this would be, as Dennis mentioned, based down in the bottom of your cabinet for leak detection. And really it's a reed switch based product with magnets, very similar to what we talked about on the FS2 925 product. Here it would work with either the aqueous or the hydrocarbon, and really truly a leak sensor. So think of a mousetrap at the bottom of your cabinet. That's the size, it's even smaller than that, and very little level is needed to move that float. Next slide, let's talk about how these things work. So with the two non-moving part products, the ULS 200 and the ELS 1100, the difference is only in how they achieve noticing if they're wet or dry, but they do the exact same thing, very similar in terms of its output and its ability to, with the no moving parts, have nothing to get fouled up in the system, ideal for those closed loop coolant systems. So on the left side, the ULS 200 utilizes capacitance to determine if it's wet or dry. So the capacitance when it's dry and in air is different than when it's in an aqueous solution. And so it's able to determine that differential by saying I'm wet or dry, and when it becomes wet, the internal signal changes and allows you to take that into your equipment and say, all right, we've got enough coolant in line, or determine we don't have enough coolant in line, we don't have anything flowing, by returning to its off-the-shelf state. Slightly different, but similar. On the optic side, we're using, just like it says, light to accomplish the presence or absence of liquids. So in this case, we are emitting a beam of light bouncing that off a prism and having it go back to a receiver. When there's no liquid present, the full signal comes back. But as that's immersed in liquid, some of those light rays are refracted into the liquid itself, and a lower intensity light beam is coming back. And the sensor is smart enough to sense that and go, I'm wet. So again, if you're looking for presence or the presence of coolant, it'll tell you when it's wet. If you're preventing loss of coolant and want to know when you don't have it, change state back to its normal shelf state. It'll tell you that by the presence of the full light beam. And lastly, we have our leak detection sensor, very thin and very low profile sensor with a cable that you can tape to the bottom. You can screw it in with a little hole in the front. And as I said, similar to like placing a mouse trap down at the bottom of your cabinet, where in this case, we're not catching mice, we're catching moisture. So what it is in the shelf state and dry, the float with the magnet in it is in position that it is actuating the reed switch. It's closing the switch. As liquid comes in, that float is moved up on a little lever and it breaks that contact. So if you think about like a proximity sensor on your home security where you have on your window, when the window opens, the contact's broken because the magnet is moved away. Very similar, but in this case, again, we're not opening a window. We're looking for moisture buildup, a loss of coolant, whatever that may be to trigger that. And it's a very low amount of liquid that it takes to break that. So it adds to security and peace of mind for your application. Dennis?
Thanks, Tim. Okay, liquid cooling TCO, or total cost of ownership. When exploring TCO, the capital expenditure, the upfront cost, obviously has to be considered. First thing that comes to mind, obviously, is low-cost components. GemCetra is very competitive in price, but there are other CapEx considerations that GemCetra helps with. Sensor accuracy and repeatability play a role in reducing CapEx. Accurate flow, level, and pressure data supports more precise engineering of other components in the system. For example, pumps and pipe sizing. So eliminating the need to over-engineer with that built-in just-in-case margin that can help in reducing the upfront costs in your system overall. Next is operational expenditure, or the long-term costs. And that's where sensor selection has an even greater impact. Accurate, high-resolution sensing allows you to detect problems early and supports predictive maintenance by acting on real usage data. Optimized flow and pressure sensing ultimately improve efficiency and PUE, lowering total energy costs. Reliable sensors with long life cycles ensure uptime and longevity, both big parts of reducing OpEx. And we at GemCetra test our sensors to millions and even tens of millions of cycles to support this. Okay, now we wanted to look at a few real applications. I do want to note that all of the sensors discussed in this webinar are proven performers for data center liquid cooling applications. None of what you have seen today is hypothetical. Okay, you see on the left here the ELS 1100 used at a top of the manifold with a tight tolerance of available space, where that ELS 1100's small footprint and the sensing prism, that little small sensing prism you saw, is extremely beneficial. The rotor flow in the middle here, that's used in a rack-based CDU to monitor continuous flow with the analog output signal in a redundant pump loop. And then you see the ULS 200 on the right. Here it's installed in a rack-based CDU as well for high and low level indication in the coolant reservoir. These sensors, this actual ULS 200 application, actually replaced a different sensor option that was being used because the ULS 200 eliminated some of those limitations that were experienced by the legacy sensors. Okay, the GemCetra advantage. Why choose GemCetra? We support your success. The engineers at GemCetra are eager to discuss your upcoming or existing projects and where we can help. We have rapid prototyping, just in case you require customization of one of our standard products, for instance, adding a cable, or we have other capabilities as well within our engineering team to customize products for you. And we want to get you these samples quickly to accelerate your testing and validation. Account and application engineers, specific to you and your needs. We know the importance of good communication and fast response times. We also offer one-on-one meetings that you can schedule yourself based on your availability. There are links on all of our data center pages for you to check out, and you can check out our calendar in those links. Post-sale support and training. So continued support and training is available when needed. Obviously, we are happy to provide more detailed product training where needed, and we are available through the entire life cycle of your product development, commercial launch, and beyond. GEMS and Cetra products are assembled in the USA. Plus, we have worldwide options to lessen tariff and surcharge impacts. Now, you can visit our websites for more information, submit general product questions, get a quick quote, request OEM samples. You could also use those one-on-one meeting links that I mentioned to check my schedule for one-on-one consultation via Teams. You can also email questions directly to that email address you see below. And with that, we'll open it up for any questions.
All right, it looks like we don't have any questions in the questions tab yet, but if anyone has any that they want to type in, feel free.
Yeah, we'll give them some time.
Yeah.
I have a leading question for Tim Kelly. Tim Kelly, the ULS 200, can you configure that for liquid present or liquid absent indication?
I have a question for you. You can. We would have it as wet sync or dry sync. So the application to program, it's part of the product configurator. With that, as mentioned earlier, you can also, whether or not you want to add time delays on the rise or fall as well. So Dennis, the answer is yes.
Thanks, Tim.
How'd I do?
100%.
All right, it looks like we have some coming in right now. Do our sensors also fall under HVAC?
They do. They do. The Cetra and GEMS product lines both have products that are found throughout the data center facility, regardless if it's liquid cooled, air cooled. We have sensors in cooling towers as well for heat rejection. So we do have solutions, again, on both of our brands, GEMS and Cetra, that play a big role in the HVAC, air handlers, cracks and crays, for instance. And we're happy to help you out with any of your product needs in that particular segment of the market.
All right. Next question. This person says, I believe there's a minimum quantity requirements that apply to the 3100. Are there any other products that are affected by MOQ?
We do employ on several products minimum order quantities. However, there are several that the minimum order is 1. We'd like you to buy 1,000, but there are several that are 1. So best to check online for that information, or if you're in consultation with one of your the account owner or with Dennis, you can get that specific part number or part numbers that you're looking for and confirm that. But again, there are some that do require a little higher, but many others are just 1 piece.
Okay. Another question is, will this presentation be available for download after?
Dennis, why don't you take that?
Absolutely. An on-demand email with a link will be coming soon, so watch out for that.
Do you offer other products that can be used for data centers?
Yes, we do. We have a product line card actually that covers both the, not both, but all of the data center applications that we cover. Again, we have for liquid cooling, air cooling solutions, as well as environmental control and monitoring. I mentioned that we have power meters as well. Power meters can actually, it's for sub-metering, and you can actually monitor the power coming from individual components inside the data center. You could see if the cracks and crays, for instance, how much power they're pulling. Really beneficial. But yeah, solutions across the board, across the entire data center industry.
I would also add, because the applications are very common to our core industrial product lines, that you can find plenty of other solutions, things we may not even thought of yet, but they're used in a different industry. But as it comes about in your applications, whether it is continuous transmitter, a pressure switch, or a whole host of products. So we'll be happy to talk to you about as many applications as you have.
Yeah, we like to cater to all the data center professionals. You know, we know we have, this was focused on liquid cooling and liquid cooling equipment, but our data center operators, owners, maintenance, they're also very important to us, and we have solutions for the facility itself too. Like I mentioned, a hot and cold aisle. We have differential pressure sensors that actually monitor the differential pressure between hot and cold aisles, for instance. We've got several different differential pressure products that work with the air handling units. We have a new product called Filter Alert. And Filter Alert is actually a differential pressure sensor that resides on both sides of your air filters and your air handler, and gives you visual indication, as well as an output of filter status. It'll give you a green for good, yellow for needs attention, and red for come get me now. So again, for all the data center professionals, whether you're an OEM or an end user, we're happy to help.
Awesome. So can these sensors also detect air bubbles or foam?
I think that one, Tim, is for the ULS 200.
For the ULS 200, yes, for the foam, because actually one of our successful applications is that's what they're using the presence for, is the foam in the coolant. However, air is maybe a little harder, and we'd like to be on liquid predominantly. For pressure, that certainly we could use for air, but for level flow, we're most looking at liquid and not air. Dennis, anything else to add to that?
Yeah, well, for instance, ULS 200, ELS 1100, the ones that we had mentioned here, for foam or air bubbles, it depends on the density of the foam, to be honest with you. ELS might have a little bit trouble with foam for obvious reasons. However, if there's enough liquid present, the bubbles wouldn't affect an ELS, I don't think. ULS 200 as well, as long as it's not changing the properties of the liquid being sensed too much, then our sensors obviously would be able to sense that media.
Great. So going back to the 3100 series, is it possible to place orders for 1 or 2 pieces? What is the minimum on that? And how can we better serve our customers that only need 1 or 2 pieces?
It's a good question. So if the 1 or 2 pieces is for a prototype, for testing and evaluation purposes, let us know. We'll reach right out to you, because we do offer that. Dennis mentioned as rapid prototyping, but we also offer the prototyping for products that are standard, that may have that higher volume requirement. So we'll take that as case by case. We do have other sensors as well in the GemCentra family that may fit and may have a lower MOQ as well. There are other models that we can offer. So let's get a conversation going if you have an application.
Great. Okay, and in regards to the ULS 200, how does the ULS 200 handle set pointing with varying dielectric liquids in a vertical orientation or continuous?
The ULS 200 is strictly point level. Yeah, the entire probe is actually the sensing element. And if liquid comes into contact with that sensing element anywhere, it's a yes or no signal.
But you never know, we may develop a continuous one at some point. So that's a great question. We appreciate that because it adds to our little bit of research to determine whether or not those are valid applications for us. So if we come across those and there's enough of that, who knows, we may have that product available at some point.
Let me really quick though address though for a vertical. It may not support continuous, but point level, you can, the orientation for the ULS 200, any orientation at all.
Okay. Another question. If someone were to purchase the sensors, how long is their lifespan?
Tim, you
Does
may
it
have
vary?
more experience with the testing that we've done in life cycle testing and so on products.
And are there also any warranties
any-
along with that?
So we do have our standard warranty as part of our standard terms and conditions. It is a 12-month warranty based on data shipment. However, there are sensors we have used that are still out and used for 30 years or more as we get calls as those finally a replacement part or not on a product like that. However, for a high use, if it's loaded properly, you're following the instructions of what the voltage range is, what the pressure range is, there are going to be 10, 15-year units. I would stake my reputation on that we would be able to withstand those. If there are any acute issues in the system, obviously that's going to shorten the life of the product. And we also have long-term test data unique to various models. So if there's a specific model you're interested in, again, similar to some of the other answers, let's get that conversation going so we can pull that data, have that for you. If you have any rapid life cycle testing, I think it's SALT testing folks do, it's the acronym for that, is to place the sensors in that, again, working with us on prototypes and seeing how it operates in your system long-term as well. So we'd be happy to work with you on that.
And if someone were to be doing a high volume project, how many spare parts or what percentage of spare parts do you recommend for them to have on hand for their project?
That's a terrific question. Whoever answered that, raise your hand. I would say it has to do, I'm trying to think just from the years I've been doing this as, I'm not sure if we have a set percentage. I'm sure that there's a quality aspect to it that, you know, for 100,000, 2,000, whatever the number is, that you may see eventually this amount of fallout or acceptable fallout. But I would say that it would be on a case-by-case basis, again, based on the product and the application. So again, terrific question that I've never heard asked before.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right. What kind of technical support do we offer for this
So
specific?
we have, yep. So initially for data centers specifically, we have our one-on-one consultations with Dennis, your host of today. And I do recommend that you reach out to him and schedule an appointment. He will eventually bring in an account manager at the appropriate time to talk about the application and then get into perhaps pricing and the like. However, we have a team of application engineers on the industrial side, a team of 4 that really their focus is on our pre-sale activity. So recommendations, crossovers from competitors. Yeah, I see you have like 30 different products that might go here. What should I focus on? That's what they are here to help with, whether that's through the phone, through our through the email address we have for our tech folks, or even for any of the downloads, it's throughout our website, and we have a pretty fast response time on those as well. So certainly put your questions to the team. They will help out. And again, we work in conjunction with the sales folks. So as those conversations turn from product selection to perhaps prototyping and purchase, we bring in the sales team, the account owner as well, so that we can have that joint conversation and transition you from a first question to order placement to post-sales support too. We're there for the lifetime of the product for you.
That sounds great, Tim. Thanks. If you have any other questions, feel free to add them into the chat now, but it looks like we went through all of them.
Okay.
Give everyone a couple minutes and then we can wrap up.
Great. And while we wait that couple minutes, if we have any more questions, obviously bring them on. We're happy to answer. I wanted to thank you all for coming. As mentioned before, with the question from one of our attendees, an on-demand email with a link will be coming. All right. Also coming soon, watch out for an upcoming white paper on our comprehensive solutions in the data center. That was another question that was asked by someone on what other solutions do we have for air cooling, for instance. Do we have any that just work in the data center facility itself? So this white paper will cover the different applications that you'll find across the data center facility itself. And so be a lookout for that. Also, I wanted to mention too, let us know if you're going to be at the SC25 trade show in November. It's in St. Louis. If so, we're going to actually have a booth there. Our booth number is 6121. That's 6121. And just let me know and we can meet face to face. Be happy to talk. With that, I think we say thank you and be on the lookout for the on-demand and all the other things that we mentioned here.
Thank you.